This meeting is being recorded.
Okay. Is it sharing my screen or is it?
It's not yet.
Okay, let me try. System preferences here real quick. Screen recording. Interesting. Privacy. Screen recording. Here we go. Here we go.
Do you have an Apple or a PC? Not that I would know how to do that.
I have a Mac, but it looks like I am locked from screen recording, so that's new.
If you could send it to me, I could put it up. I could share my screen.
Yeah, let's do that. Interesting. I've
my
never had it do
email.
this before, but I think it's because it's on the Jefferson Zoom versus the regular. Okay, here we go. Send it over to you.
Did you get my email in the chat? Oh, we both want to do it.
Okay. Yes, I got the email there. I'm just going to send it via WeTransfer so it comes through as not like microscopic. Okay. Okay, it is uploading now. So I can start without my presentation. So yeah, hi, I'm Elena Krupika. I am a footwear designer with New Balance Lifestyle. Once we get the presentation up, I actually want to go through sort of how I got here, because I think that's probably the most applicable part of my journey and really explains what I do now. So yeah, I want to talk a bit about sort of how I found my way into footwear design, because I came from a traditional product design background, but I had some insight into both fashion and textiles in college that sort of led me into what I'm doing now. And okay, it looks like the transfer sent. So let me know when you get it
When
and
you
can
say
get it
trans-
up.
Is it transferred to my email?
Yes,
Yes,
it'll send an email to you and say download file.
Okay. Transfer.
It's for like really long.
Okay.
Yeah, the file shouldn't be too huge, but I didn't want it to send through Gmail and come out as like a tiny little thing on your screen.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I got it. So I'm just gonna open it up then.
Okay.
Would I have to log into this?
No, you could just download.
All right, it's downloading.
Okay. So I'll just start talking and then we can figure out where I'm at in the presentation once it gets going. So I am obviously an alum of Jefferson. It was still Philadelphia University at the time, but I came in 2016 for the industrial design program. When the presentation gets up, you will see a very terrible photo my mom took of me in front of the sign. But yeah, so I came in sort of knowing that design was my area and that I wanted to be in product, but not necessarily what exact area of product interested me. And with industrial design, the first couple of years are, you've probably come across industrial design students as well. It's a lot of woodworking, spray painting, sanding, that kind of thing. Oop, it looks like it's popping up. I mean, it was good. It was great stuff to learn, but a lot of it felt to me like not really my area of interest. So I was a little bit wary of, where am I going to end up with this? What am I looking at as far as a career? Because, furniture design or medical device design wasn't exactly my preference. There we go. Presentation is up. So hi, that's me. You can go ahead and go forward. Yep, just my official title, which I'll get into a little bit later. There's the terrible photo of me in front of the sign with my eyes closed. And then the next one is me in the spray booth. So this was pretty much my freshman sophomore experience at Jefferson. Was a lot of crazy late nights, sanding, spray painting, etc., which you guys are probably familiar with. So you can go ahead to the next one. So like I said, I didn't really feel like industrial design was necessarily the right fit for me, but then I had the chance to go into the soft goods program and start working with fabric. So what you see here is my very first time sewing again after learning how to sew back when I was like 7. You can laugh at how terrible my seams are, but this was sort of the aha moment of, yeah, okay, I definitely want to be working in soft goods. I want to be working with fabric, with shoes, with apparel, in that sort of sector. So this was a project they had us do where we went out and got a cheap backpack, took it apart, and used the backpack itself as a pattern to then make a new one. So that was sort of my intro and, where I started to find my footing in what I wanted to do. So then the next slide, I had the chance to do a brief project with Under Armour already in my sophomore year. So the juniors had gotten an industry-sponsored project with Under Armour, and I found out about it and was like, I really want to do this. Can you somehow get me involved? And thankfully, they found a way to get me on a team. And the project itself sort of, if I'm being truthful, fell apart, but I think this was still a really amazing experience for me because I saw how a product designer interacted with textile designers and engineers, with marketing, with merchandising, to make something for a big company like Under Armour. And this photo is, I think, the only photo I have, but we got to tour their HQ, which was like really, really cool to see and definitely solidified like this is sort of the industry I want to go to. So then the next slide, that same year, we had the amazing chance to go to Brooklyn Shoe Space, which is still around today, and they're a really good resource if accessories, shoes are something that you're interested in. But they literally had us make a shoe. So you can go to the next slide. Nothing hugely amazing design-wise, but we actually had to go through the process of physically making a shoe, and that was huge in shaping my knowledge of this industry and how things are made, because not everyone has the chance to go through the actual shoemaking process when they're coming into this industry. So you can see sort of the top left is what we call the butterfly. So it's sort of the flat lay of the pattern of the shoe. The bottom left is where we're lasting it. So the actual form of the shoe in footwear is called the last. You'll hear the phrase "last comes first" a lot in footwear. And so, you're sewing the pattern together, you're sort of draping it over this form, and then you're actually physically pulling it over the shoe form, nailing it down and gluing it. Obviously in production, there are machines to do this, but this is the traditional way, and it's super great to understand how everything is built. So then on the next slide, so that was sort of like how I was introduced to soft goods, how I was introduced to the area of footwear design. And I was like, this is definitely what I want to do, but how can I make myself more knowledgeable and more valuable? And I thought for me, that was definitely the textile design department at Jefferson. So I went ahead and pursued a minor in textiles so this is just every student in the knit program in like the Knit Design 1 class makes these swatches, but you choose your own colors and yarns. And it's really difficult, but it was a huge experience as well, just really diversified what I knew, and has turned out to be really helpful in what I'm doing today. So the next slide will be familiar for some of you if you I always forget the name of the class, but it's that intro class to fabric and trend. I know fashion merchandising has to take it. But I have, sorry, is someone talking?
Oh, the Survey of Textiles?
Yes, correct, the Survey of Textiles course. So I had to take that to get into my textile design minor, and we did this project. And so this was sort of my very first intro to color and material design. And like hilariously is what I do a lot of now. But at the time I was like, this is so fun. I went a little overboard, if I'm being honest, on this project. But just to give you an idea of like something you may have done that definitely ties into what I'm doing now. That was a quick slide of mine. Okay, so now next slide. How I really got into footwear is this group called Pencil Footwear Design Academy. They used to be based out of Portland, Oregon, which is where I'm originally from. But they actually just in the last year relocated to Detroit, and they actually revived an HBCU that had gone out of business. And so they're technically Pencil Lewis College now. But don't get scared, I'm not telling you to transfer. They basically run classes with big companies and they're all tuition free and they pay for your housing. You just have to get yourself to, in this case now, Detroit. But at the time for me, it was to Boston. And if you get accepted into the course, you get, whatever length of the course, mine were 3 weeks of education in your like specified field. Specifically, they do footwear, sportswear, apparel, brand marketing and merchandising, and color and material design. So they're a really amazing resource, and they are legitimately the ones who got my foot in the door for New Balance. And so, yeah, they're a great resource. Definitely something to look up if you think this is an industry that is of interest to you. So if you go to the next slide, this is just my class photo from my very first class. So right in the middle is Miss Suzette Henry. She's considered basically the creator of color and material design for footwear. And she is the teacher for pencil color and material design. And basically the whole program was started by this cohort of designers who used to be at Nike on the Jordan brand team. And they just wanted to see more a more diverse offering of people who were going into this field, because it's can be kind of exclusive. And yeah, so they basically made these opportunities for anyone who's interested. And yeah, they've made everything possible. So what is color and material design? On the next slide, you will see my mood board for my first color and material design project for Pencil. So my first year doing the New Balance course, like I said, it was a 3-week course, and they put you on a team. So I was the color and material designer. We had an apparel designer, a brand marketer, which sort of crosses over into merchandising in their world. And then we had, did I have 2 or 3 footwear designers? I think I had 2 footwear designers this year. So they gave us a muse for our project. So mine was Danielle Collins, who is a professional tennis player for New Balance, who you can see there. This was the mood board for her as an athlete, like sort of what is her personal taste and what is her, basically just her vibe as a person. So then I built out color palettes from there. So the next slide is her performance color palette. I think we called it Fierce, which is a little bit vague, but it had more to do with our marketing plan. So she's from Florida. She trains in Florida, like a lot of professional tennis players. And she has a lot of that sort of beachy spirit, but she's known as a very aggressive tennis player. She took the unusual route of going through college tennis, which is sort of a different world from pro. And so a lot of people, you know, describe her as this very like aggressive, fierce player, and we wanted the colors to reflect that, but also reflect a little bit of where she comes from. So from there, when you go to the next slide, like my job as the color and material designer was, you know, I made these color palettes, I presented them, but then I also had to apply them to all of the products that my designers were working on. So this is one of my designers, Matthew Schutz's performance tennis shoe, a little bit futuristic here for tennis, but applying that fierce color palette to his design. So then these are his orthographics. And if you go to the next page, he actually did a render. So basically I was working with my apparel designers, with my footwear designers to create this palette, but then also to apply it to their product and, you know, make sure it was true to their vision. And when we got it where we wanted it, they would do these gorgeous renders of their product in each setting. So really cool experience. I learned a million things that I could never have learned just in my coursework, which I thought was absolutely amazing. And then I thought, okay, this is really what I want to do. So the next slide is a photo of me looking intimidated with all of these guys standing around me. This was from the World Sneaker Championship. So coming off of Pencil, I was like, I really want to get into this. So I'm just going to keep entering like every competition. So I entered World Sneaker Championship, was really intimidated. They flew me out to Puma Boston. Again, competed as color and material design. So to my right in the photo are Corey Lee, who is my apparel designer, and Jean-François Gaguet, our footwear designer. And yeah, so I was tasked with sort of bringing together the story for our product line. And I was lucky enough to win. So on the next slide, just see me working at Puma HQ and me with my massive fake check, which I still think is hilarious. And learned a bunch more stuff, actually had stuff go into production, which they've gone back and forth because of COVID, whether it'll actually get released, but maybe someday we'll see that. Okay, so then one more slide on, we have my second pencil class. So I actually wasn't aware that you could come back and do it again, but I had kept in touch with the people at New Balance after my first class. And I had been sending them my portfolio, like just trying to keep myself in mind if they had any positions opening up. And they responded to one of them and said, hey, the new class, you know, like the submission is due this week. Are you coming back? And I was like, you can do that? They were like, yeah. So I quickly submitted and got in. So this was my whole class at one of our presentations at New Balance HQ. And this time I actually brought along a fellow industrial design student. She did the footwear design track. She's down there in the front row with me. Her name's Allie Grant. So yeah, came back. This time I was less intimidated. I was ready to go. And is sort of the same thing. So go to the next slide. So for that first class, we were designing for a specific athlete. This time we were designing for a city. So we had to create our own consumer. We didn't have that given to us this time. We were using actually the Foot Locker consumer because they were sponsoring this entire class. And we each chose a city where we thought a product launch would be good, where the sneaker culture had a tie-in, and where we had like sort of a defined consumer demographic. So our city was Atlanta. And I built out my color palette based on sort of what I saw as our consumers' preferences, but then also, you know, what is the energy of Atlanta and how does that translate into product? So again, building out color palettes. This first one is for sort of the whole city. It's called Citywide. The next slide is little 5 points, which is like where we saw our consumer hanging out, sort of where the sneaker culture would be, and where, you know, just people would pick up on trends and spend their time. And then the third story on the next slide is called Fresh Canvas. So our consumer that we built out was a college student. He had just moved to Atlanta from a small town. You know, he was picking up on all of these style and trend cues. He was learning all these new things, but he was also sort of reinventing himself in a new place. So that's what this third and final storyline was. And you can see they actually allowed us to use the New Balance corporate color palette for this. So then on the next slide, as the color and material designer, I was given the New Balance 327 to use as like a product muse just on the color and material side. So this is actually really true to what I do nowadays on the New Balance team, but basically you're given a product, you know, in the world of inline product design, you're also given sort of who it's for. But in this case, I had made the consumer, and then I have 3 different color applications here. So a core, which is, you know, it should be like sort of anyone can wear it, can sell quite easily. You have your seasonal, which is just a little more push, but using those brighter seasonal colors that we see are going to be probably more popular that season. And then the top right is your strategic, which is mostly for like if there's a specific product launch. So in this case, like, you know, we were proposing this product launch in Atlanta, and so that's what this strategic color block was for. And the bottom right, we actually had the chance to work with the 3D design team, and they just made a 3D mock-up. So that is the 3D mock-up of one of my designs in the bottom right. So then going to the next slide, you see our product line. So we had our apparel designer had designed this tracksuit on the right, and then I had 2 footwear designers who each did 2 shoes. A training shoe for one was for basketball, and I don't even remember what the other one was for, but then they also did 2 like sort of more futuristic lifestyle shoes. And I was applying the color palette, obviously. So this was my core clean slate color palette applied to all of their product. The next slide is the seasonal applied to all of the product. So you can just sort of see how the product interacts. Yep. And the next slide is the strategic. So again, for our like specific product launch. And the next slide is all of the materials. So one thing I haven't necessarily touched on is that it is color and materials. So a lot of the work is color blocking, is color palette building, but then I also have to be able to go through and, you know, take a design that's handed to me by someone and say what it's made of. So in this project, I was sort of translating what my designers wanted, how they would look, and then how we could actually manufacture it. So here is just one of the basketball shoes with every single part called out, basically with the supplier, with what the material is, in some cases how it's applied, etc. So that's sort of the final layer. Once you have, you know, how your product looks, is, you know, how is it actually going to be made? So if you go to the next slide, there's my class again. So they actually sort of surprised us with, at the end of the project, you know, everything you present is judged, and we were surprised with a guest judge. If you recognize him, it's Jack Harlow. At the time, he was not famous. His song "What's Poppin'" had literally just come out, and he shows up to this event, and and we're like, who is this guy? And yeah, and like within 6 months, he was like really well known, which was wild. But wanted to put this photo in because, like, okay, so me as a designer, you know you're not always going to be designing for yourself. Like, in fact, most of the time you're going to be designing for someone who is not you. But I did not have in mind that I was designing for Jack Harlow when I created these. And actually, in the end, he was the reason that I won the category that I was in, because apparently he really liked one of my shoes. And of course, I wasn't like in the judging session, but I got this whole like relay from the people running the event, like, yeah, Jack Harlow just like really wanted your shoe. And so it was just really crazy, strange experience. So if you go to the next slide, this is the shoe that Jack Harlow really wanted. And it wasn't even the shoe that was supposed to be my like judging panel shoe, but he really liked it. And it got produced alongside one of the other winners, Corey Knox's design. So really wild experience, my first ever product to hit the market, and definitely isn't reflective of my usual design style, but a really cool sort of origin story to footwear design. All right, so next slide. This is sort of just a landing page slide, so I can get a drink of water. But just wanted to touch on, like, why did I tell you all of this? So, because it feels like sometimes I feel like I'm bragging when I talk about like World Sneaker Championship and all of this, but I actually hate talking about those kinds of things. The reason that I wanted to tell you about it is because I think it's important that you know that, like, even if you're in your degree but you don't know exactly what you want to do, or you don't even think your exact degree area is the area you want to get a job in, like, there are so many opportunities that you can find. And I know that the fashion program is amazing at finding them, because I had the chance to work with them. And so, like, don't get disheartened, look for those different opportunities, but most importantly, do things that terrify you. Because when I applied for my first pencil, I didn't think I'd even get accepted into the course, let alone go on to win one of their competitions and one of their courses. And then here, this image is actually obviously from the Fashion Scholarship Fund Gala. So I had heard about this just in an email that was sent out to all design students, I think. And I was like, I'm going to do this, even though I have no clue what I'm doing. And I actually did it twice. I did merchandising the first year, which I guess at the time that was just what industrial design was doing. We were always doing the merchandising brief. And And I was like, there's no way I'm gonna get into this. Like, I know people who do actual fashion merchandising, they know way more than I do. And somehow I managed to get in. I mean, I put a lot of work and effort into it, but I was like so baffled. And I remember being there at the gala and being like, oh my goodness, what am I doing here? And this is that photo from that first gala with everyone else was from fashion, and obviously with Sheila there as well. But everyone was super supportive. And I remember talking to Mackenzie and Kinley, who were there with me, and being like, I'm honestly not sure why I'm here. Like I was convinced I wasn't gonna win a scholarship. They had me do the merchandising prompt. Like, I went to the job fair, but I'm listed as a merchandiser, which doesn't really make sense as a product designer. And I was like, I kind of wish I had done the design prompt, but I didn't know what I was doing. And I don't know, like, if I would hold up against fashion designers, because it is a fashion-based competition. And both Kinley and Mackenzie were like, do the design prompt next year. You've got this. And I was like, I don't know about that. I'll think about it. But I came back. I did it the next year. I did the design prompt. I did a footwear aspect, but I also did apparel, which I had never done before. I worked a lot of hours on that project, and I won again. And it was like both times I thought there was no chance I was going to get a scholarship. And then both times I got it, and I had all these great opportunities. And, if I had just decided it wasn't worth my time to even try, I wouldn't have gotten to where I was. So I just think it's really important to show you guys my background. It explains what I do, but it also shows like you can make your own path. And even if you don't have like a bunch of connections in these big companies, because I had none, and I just came in and sort of made my own way. So yeah, do things that scare you. Okay, so next slide. We're finally to where I am now. So I'm an associate footwear designer. Really, there's like footwear designer, we all kind of do the same thing. The associate is really just what level I am, how long I've been here. So that doesn't really make a difference to what I do. But then lifestyle franchise is my actual team. Which is just New Balance's way of saying lifestyle classic shoes. So I do the shoes that are more like walking or style based. They're not performance running shoes. They're not track shoes. They are the shoes that really for New Balance are the money makers. So the next slide, like, where do I fit in? So this is how New Balance works. These positions are all going to be pretty much in any company, but the way you interact may be slightly different based on the company. So in my case, I'm the product designer. I have a design manager who's my boss and just sort of oversees my workload. Do I have too much on my plate? Do I not have enough? Are there areas I could build my skills more? So he's mostly just overseeing me. All of my actual projects come from my product manager. At a lot of other companies, it'll actually be called the product line manager, or PLM. So they are the person identifying the need in the marketplace, and they will give me, it depends on who the person is. Some of them will give you like a really specific, like, it needs to be for Europe, it needs to be light colored, it needs to have a closed toe, like, it could be really specific, or it could just be, oh, this is a line of shoes that's coming out in the spring. We want it to be bright and fun. So that's where I get my information from, and he works with our regional merchandisers to sort of get that information to know what's needed in the market. So I don't actually work with my merchandiser. Then I work with a product developer. So they're sort of the unsung hero of design, especially in footwear. I try and know as much as I can about product manufacturing, just different properties, all of that. But the product developer will know absolutely everything about how the shoe is made, solutions to any problems I have in the production, as well as they are the one who communicates directly to the factory. So I work really closely with my product developers. Basically they're the one making my designs go into reality. And they work wonders on cutting and building cost for your products. So something as little as changing the lace can save you a lot of money on your product. So changing the laces on the shoe, a classic, but one that your product developer will catch and tell you to do and convey to the factory. So that's sort of the overview. The next slide is a brief. So this is what our briefs look like in within New Balance Lifestyle. So my product manager will fill this out. Obviously, this is sort of just gibberish that I have filled in here, but they will give like a theme for the pack. They'll give some reference images. Sometimes it's like a whole mood board. Sometimes it's literally just a photo of one shoe. And they'll say, this is the goal. This is how many of them we want to sell. This is the price we want to sell it at, and the price we need to try and manufacture it for. So that's all listed there. So pack name is the theme, pack forecast is how many pairs they want to sell, retail is obviously the retail price, intro date is what month it is going to go on the market. Obviously that plays a huge factor in footwear of what materials we use. And then target FCA is the amount of money that I'm budgeted to produce this shoe with. Down below is more of the specifics. So more and more these days, we're obviously trying to do sustainable product. So Greenleaf is our New Balance product standard for sustainability. So almost all of mine now falls under Greenleaf. And then they'll say like that little thing that says seasonal is when I was showing you those color palettes for core, seasonal, and strategic, that's where they give you that information. So is it meant to be like sort of for everybody, anybody can wear this? Is it meant to be a little more fun and interesting, which is usually our seasonal? Or is it, you know, like if the exclusive is checked, it usually means it's like for a specific store. You know, if Foot Locker, someone has requested, we will do like a specific pack for a need that they have. And then they'll just give us materials is usually pretty vague, but they'll say, you know, if they need it to be waterproof or something, that's where they would say it. And then they'll just give some general comments. So here I've just put some random notes, but seasonal summer pack, fun, airy summer energy, and an accent color on the logo. So that's a really common thing to request is either the logo or a different part of the shoe having a bright color on it. So then if you go to the next slide, after the product brief comes out, I come back with some color blockings. So these are just really random color blockings I threw on here, but you know, if we're going for this like summery, airy feel, this is what I would come back with. There's usually a little mood board, and then there's, you know, depending on how many shoes they've requested per pack, however many colorways, and then some small material call outs. So with the shoes that I work with, this is the 574, which right now I'm doing almost the entire product line for. It is mostly suede, so almost every time it's going to be suede, but is it a inexpensive suede or is it a high-end nubuck premium suede? Is it a hairy suede? And then the mesh in the toe and the collar, you know, something as simple as a descriptor word like sporty can make a really big difference on whether or not your product manager likes what you are proposing. So just giving an overall view of what the materials might be and then different colors. And in this case, I did it as if my product manager had told me, oh, I want 2 seasonal color bases and 2 core essentials bases. So you can see 2 bright color pops, 2 neutrals. And we will go through, at New Balance, we do 3 rounds of design review. So the first round, I come back with maybe just 1 shoe with the materials. And they'll say, I like the concept, I don't like it. And then we'll go through it. Then we go to a slide like this, where it's all of the shoes that they've requested with those specifics. We go through another design review. And then we have 1 more after that to confirm that, like, you know, it's presented out to the entire design staff, to the oversight, like everybody, the people above me, and they come back with any concerns they might have. So from there, if you go to the next slide, I will go to a tech pack. This is just a standard blank tech pack for the 574. So obviously all of your very specific information is across the top, like there's a individual style code like what you'll see on the tags when you purchase a garment or a shoe. So this is all just information for the factory, like do we want them to give us the estimated cost, which yes, we do. Do we want it sampled in a certain size, in this case men's 8D, and is this the first time we are sampling this shoe? So once I've gotten approval from those design reviews from my product manager and from the higher ups, I take all of those designs that I've created and I translate them into this tech pack. So, you'll see every single piece of the shoe has a box along the bottom with the number corresponding to the picture. And I have to input the vendor name for whatever material I'm using. If there's usually a specific identifier from the vendor. Sometimes they'll have silly names. The one we use a lot is called Air Art Mesh. And then there will be a code there. So you'll see in the tip box in the bottom left, vendor name, item number, and then there's a code, LEA. So that would be a leather. So it has that prefix and then the individual code for the specific material. So that's just how that code is created by New Balance to identify a material that we've already sort of tested and vetted out for our product. And that allows the factory to access sort of our database and order that exact material we have requested. And then beneath that, we put the color swatch. So this is, I just made a generic color swatch, but it'll in this case, it says teal. So it'll say the color name and then it'll say a code so the factory knows exactly which color to match that material to. So I go through every single piece on the shoe, specify the material, the color, and then if there's anything special. So if there's a print added on top of it, if there is something like a deboss or an emboss that they need to press into the material, if there's something I'm changing from the original shoe, that needs to be specified, which is a lot of what I do. So in that case, there would actually be a second page and you would have to add every single measurement, every single detail of how that would be changed. So something like the tongue label that's in the bottom right of the screen is something we change a lot. And so you would sort of delete that out and you'd have to create a new page with all of those new measurements for a new tongue label, all of the material specs, all of the color specs. So a bit of a tedious process, and those are my busiest deadlines, are tech pack handoffs. But I go through all of this, I send it to my product developer. My product developer reviews it. They work miracles with catching anything that I may have missed. But they also then look at it and say, oh, I don't think this material is like going to be within our cost, or I don't think we can manufacture it in this area. And that's where we sort of bargain for what I want my design intention to be and what they can get the factory to do. So then once that's through, if you go to the next slide, they'll come back with a sample. So this is just a random shoe from the internet, but if I sent out that tech pack, they would come back with a shoe that looks exactly like whatever, or hopefully exactly like whatever I have spec'd. And so we do, New Balance, we do 3 sample rounds, like we do 3 design reviews. The first sample round is for shoes with a lot of changes. So like if you're trying brand new materials, if you are changing things like the tongue label, the N logo, you'll go out on a few the first round that have those big changes. Then you'll go out on a second round, which is everything we're producing for that 6-month time frame. And then the third is our confirmation round. So hopefully at this point we've worked everything out and we're just going through and making sure there's no issue, like there's no discrepancy between our files and what has been produced. And there's nothing else we need to change in order for it to be confirmed. Because once we do that, they are sent out to our merchandising partners, our regional partners, our some of our big accounts. So your Foot Lockers, JDs, whatever they may be. So yeah, you really want to get it spot on. And again, really tedious because, you'd think it'd be so easy to look at a sample and be like, yes or no, but actually you can find things like on our leather, if it's a synthetic, you have to give them a color that the backing is. So that's what's going to show on the edge of the synthetic leather. And if they either come back with the wrong color or if they did it wrong and they painted over it, we've had that before come from the factory, like you have to go back and be like, no, you can't do that. We need it to be gray or white or what have you. So it's really specific, and that is basically the one big meeting I have in person because I work mostly from home now. But myself, my product manager, my developer, and a costing associate will be there to look at every single detail, verify that it's correct, see if we need to change anything because it's too expensive. And again, you're just sort of bargaining with your developer and your costing manager to get the exact product you want, make it look the way you want, and get it ready for production. So then your next slide this is just an image of a shoe store wall, but this is actually basically the exact thing we have in our office. So when we go through the sample rounds where we have sampled every single shoe we're producing for that season, they go up on this wall so we can see, do we have too much of a color? Do we not have enough of a color? Is there anything that just looks out of place? So in this image, this is a kid's shoe wall. And so you'll see like several of the same shoe because they may have one that has laces and one that doesn't have laces. But if we were to see this wall in the office and these were all different shoes and we're like, why are there two like nearly identical red shoes? That would be something that we would have to call out and try and resolve. So yeah, we have this huge wall. We all come in, we meet, we get feedback from the higher ups, as well as our direct managers, and then we sort of decide where to go from there. So then the next slide is just an example of something that I have designed. I wish I could show you more things that I've designed, but we work about 2 years out in footwear design, and I've been at New Balance exactly 2 years now. So I only have a few products that are on the market at the moment that I can show you. But this is one that came through. They said we need an animal print pack. This happens all the time. We need an animal print pack for women's, or we need a metallic pack for women's. Can you like deliver this? So just a neutral, super wearable shoe. But I have to go back and forth with our concept designers and say, hey, my product manager has asked me for an animal print shoe. What animal prints are you seeing being big this season? Is there anything I should definitely hit? And in this case, it was the Appaloosa, which is the little dots, and cow print, because this was for this last year. And so that's another part of my job. I actually have to create the prints. So I have to make like a vector repeat file to give to the factory to say, this is how you print the fabric. And then this is where you put it on the shoe. So this is a 997H super neutral shoe, but with that animal print. And then on the next slide is the cow print version as well. So my product manager had asked for 3, a white, a black, and a gray with animal print hits. I came back with these options and then made any modifications that they had for me, and went out on a sample and then went out into production. So yeah, that's basically what I do every season. I get a brief, I present design boards and get feedback. I take whatever we have decided on from design review into a tech pack. I work with my developer to make sure I have every single material and cost covered out. That's sent to the factory, which is sampled. I get the samples back 3 separate times, so I get 3 chances to get it right. And then I review them, and if they're good to go, they get confirmed, and they are sent out to our merchandising and wholesale partners, and they will give us back forecasts for how many they want to buy. And that's sort of where I end. yeah, so that's the end of my presentation. Yeah, thanks for having me. I put just a slide for questions. I think we have like 10 minutes. If you have any questions, I also put some suggestions on the last slide for things to ask for questions, because if you're like me, as soon as anyone asks you if you have questions, you forget anything you may have thought of before. So yeah, if you have any questions about footwear design as a career, color and material design, just the sportswear industry in general, any resources, I have lots of ideas on resources, and just general networking. You guys are all welcome to find me on LinkedIn and on Instagram and add me. So if you have any questions down the line on either opportunities or just general questions, I have a lot of people from the industrial design department that reach out to me, just saying, hey, how do I even get into this? So yeah, you can feel free to reach out, and I will add you and answer your questions as quickly as I can, though admittedly I'm a little slow on LinkedIn.
You guys can just come up and ask questions. Stand up in front of the camera so she can see you.
So we stand up?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, okay. So my question is, how do you find all these opportunities, like the competitions and the respective school you went to, like where Jefferson or whatever school you went to, like show them to you, or did you find them on your own? How do you find opportunities, I guess?
How do you find
Can you
opportunities?
hear her okay?
It's a little echoey, but I can sort of hear. But I think I understood that one. Like, where do you find opportunities for these different competition scholarships, etc.? Yeah. So Pencil, huge resource. They sponsor a lot of things, and they'll also share a lot of things. So PENSOLE. They have an Instagram. That's usually where they share everything. Huge resource. But then also, like, talk to your professors, talk to the people in the career office at Jefferson, and like read those. Like, I know it gets annoying to get those like blast emails from your department, but like read those, because I would never have seen the Fashion Scholarship Fund one if I hadn't read this random email. Yeah, but in general, like if you ask your professors, and you say like there's a specific area that I'm interested in, they'll keep an eye out for you, and they'll probably know, if they've heard that there's something going on. I know the fashion department is amazing about those kinds of opportunities, because I know my fashion friends like participated in a million different scholarship programs, and had some really amazing wins, but also just had some really amazing portfolio work come out of it. So yeah, that literally looking on Instagram, it sounds weird, but you see these opportunities pop up all the time, especially in footwear design, but I would bet that there are apparel design ones as well. Yeah, so I think those would be my biggest ones. Like, just don't be afraid to, like, if you see something on LinkedIn, if you see something on Instagram, reach out to the person and ask about it, get more info. And then if you do have specific interests, ask your professors who know you as a student and a professional, if they have any opportunities in mind that they could either put you forward for or get you in touch with someone to learn more about.
How many of you are on LinkedIn?
Yeah. So you can even update it too, right? And then follow companies like Pencil, of course, Elena, of course, Valent. They'll be posting things from their company, right?
Elena, can you hear me?
It's really echoey.
Hold on one second. I'm gonna grab a microphone from another room. But whoever else is come up and ask the question, Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for asking a question.
Yeah, come up and ask a question.
And Pencil actually reached out to me about this program. And you all got an email about the program already.
Yeah.
And you got an email about Fashion Scholarship Fund. Ask me how many students are in the Fashion Scholarship.
Please. Yes. One. Ready?
I don't even know about it.
Ask the question. I'm sorry. We on the back side. It could be anything. Who else had a question?
Yeah, I don't know. I should. No, you go for it. Hi. It's weird. So you're obviously like a creative, and you have like a very like big job, very important job. What do you do if you go through spurts of like not feeling creative or not being able to like push something out when you need to?
Yeah, everyone faces that, right? When you're in a creative career and you're constantly creating, it gets overwhelming. Um, really the key, like, take time off when you can. Take a breather. Don't be afraid to take a few days. Like, it feels like almost really punishing sometimes as a creative to like not create, but like take a few days, go out, go to a museum. That's a lot of what my team, like when we have our slow periods throughout the season, my manager will literally be like, take a day this week, go to a museum, go to an art exhibit, like go to store. We do a lot of market research by just literally going to stores, looking at what's available. So yeah, I mean, part of it is that take time to rest, like don't overwhelm yourself so much that you put yourself totally in a creative block. But then, when you do get those deadlines and you have to work through it, you can't take time off. Um, it's really about, for me personally, like, okay, what are my constraints? Like, what does this product have to do? Right? Like, start there with the things you know. So who's it selling to? Yeah, it's like a lot of the consumer information. What's my price point? And then sometimes if I can delve in, like things like Pinterest, even like just, it's like, oh, I'm looking for something like a little bit elegant, a little bit classic in this market, and I will like scroll through and I'll like do like elegant sneaker outfit inspo, or whatever it is on Pinterest, and look through it, and like usually at some point you will see things that start to like trigger that in your brain. And like you will get used to, like, if you continue working on it, you will be able to do that. Like even when you don't feel inspired, you will be able to connect the dots. And that's really what I see design as, for me, is connecting the dots between different ideas that I've had or that other people have had, and translating them into something new and different. And so, yeah, like build up your skill to do that all the time, but it'll come to you naturally as well the more practice you have. And just look for those, what is your source of inspiration? It's different for different people, but yeah, I use Instagram a lot. It's really big in the footwear industry still, even though I know it's considered sort of an older social media type at this point. But I follow like all kinds of accounts, not just footwear accounts, tons of independent artists, textile designers. And like, if you're constantly absorbing those different areas of inspiration, it'll come to you. And I mean, if you're really struggling with something, you go to your design manager. Because there are times, like usually not creatively, like usually I'll be able to come up with a concept. I'll be like, hey, I need help fine tuning this, or do you have other inspiration sources that I could go to? And I'm really lucky to have an amazing manager. Manager can really make or break a job. But he will go out of his way to like look through what I have so far and bounce ideas off of me and say, have you seen this? Have you looked here? Yeah, so use the people around you, use your manager, take your time off when you need it, but then practice that skill of connecting the dots, of things that you think are cool or interesting or have value.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm joking. Anyone else have questions?
I know.
Ah. Speaker on, Elena. Give me 1 second. Hopefully it is a better sound for you.
Okay.
Wait, I take out the wrong slide. That helped me. All right. Nice and loud too. This is broken, so never mind. All right, just like that.
Well, I can hear you really well right now. So if people can go to wherever you're standing.
Oh yeah, yeah. Hold on. I lost the camera. Hold on a second.
Gotta love video meetings.
Right? Hold on.
Okay, camera.
There it is. Yes, you should stand. So she could see you.
Hi. So you mentioned that you make shoes 2 years in advance before they come out. So how many shoes do you make in like a season, or like how many shoes have you made like in a year?
Mhm.
Good question. So it will depend a little bit, but here, let me back up. We design in 6-month periods. Not every company does 6-month periods, but most fashion people will be familiar with that, right? Fall, winter, spring, summer. So those are our two like main design periods. Then we have, however many different styles of shoe that are coming out that year, and then they're sort of divided out between the team members. Like I said, I am currently working on almost the entire 574 line, which is a lot. It is like one of our biggest shoes. So typically there's what we call like 8 packs, which is like the 8 different themes for my season, but it could go up to 10 packs. It usually does. And each pack can contain from 2 shoes to 8 shoes. So I'm just trying to pull up my line architecture here to see how many I'm actually doing this season. But, an average pack is probably 4 shoes. So that means you're doing at least 32 different designs for that one footwear style per season, but you're probably doing more than that. I'd say I average about 40 on that shoe, and I'm doing another adult shoe this season. I'm doing about 6 of those, so that's 46, and then I'm doing 3 shoes for the kids team, and there's 2 or 3 in each of those packs. So that brings me up to like 50. 50, 52, and then there's any other side projects that come in. So I actually love that about New Balance. I have a lot of ownership, and I do work for different teams. Like I'm a franchise footwear designer, like I said, but we cover the kids team, we cover any extra work that the collab team has, so I like that. I like that I do a little bit of everything versus if you go to a company like Nike, you're going to be like women's footwear running for a certain age group. Like it'll be really specific. So yeah, so then that means each season I'm doing like 50 some inline designs, which are the ones we're doing 2 years out. And then whatever side projects I have. So right now I'm in charge of the account for a company called Figs. They make scrubs. They have an ongoing partnership with us, and I'm their technical designer. So they give us like the creative design, and then I translate it, all the tech packs, all of the product development stuff. So that is on top of the whatever 56 or whatever shoes I'm doing for every 2 year season, for 2 years out, every 6-month season.
Wow.
Yeah.
Got
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah. So I have two questions before I let you go.
Okay.
One is, what was that green leaf in like a couple of your slides? This one. What's that green
Yeah.
leaf?
So the green leaf is our sustainability rating. So every company has their own standard for
Yeah.
what kind of level of eco material they are using. At New Balance, it's I forget what it's at right now, because basically every season they kind of up our standard. So if I'm working 2 years from now, it's different than what it is now. But I know it's at least 50% recycled, but they don't like us to be at just 50% recycled, obviously. Like, we want to do as much as we possibly can. So especially on a shoe like 574, where we sell, so I'm doing like 56 shoes. We sell like 2 million of those shoes. We want to be doing as much sustainable production as we can on 2 million shoes.
Yeah.
And so, I would like my percentage to be much closer to 75%. I don't know exactly what we're at. They actually just like give us a calculation every time a new sample comes in, and then we see where we can add more. And yeah, so I mean, I'm pretty proud of what New Balance has done, because we haven't been huge at advertising it. Actually, we probably should have done more, but I've seen companies like Nike be like, wow, we've made this, like, what was it, the Space Hippie collection? Like, wow, we've made this sustainable collection, but then it was like not actually that sustainable. Like, they used some recycled materials, right? Versus like New Balance took the approach of doing, like, the first thing we did was just change every internal material that you don't see as the consumer, all of the foams, all of those silly pieces you don't think about, change those to at least some recycled content, if not 100%, and then build up from there. So yeah, so Greenleaf is just our sustainability standard. We calculate every single piece of the shoe, what percentage of the shoe it is, and what percentage recycled it is. And then we just try and max it out as much as we can. So we've switched to almost entirely recycled fabric. And then our leather suppliers are held to a certain standard as well. Like, what are their emissions? What waste are they putting into the ecosystem? They have like a whole thing. They get reevaluated every year, which can be annoying, because if they fail, then we have to swap out. Yeah, and then we have recycled content in our midsoles and outsoles as well, which is actually, a lot of it comes from our own production. We save like some of the excess plastics. We use what we call regrind, where they just like basically chop it up and mix it in with the next shoe. Yeah, so that's the overall sustainability, and obviously just trying to get it as high as we possibly can. Unfortunately, footwear still requires a decent amount of plastics and glues that we haven't found a good solution for yet. But yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I think my last question is, are you guys going to come back out with that silver 574? Did you hear me? Silver 574. I think I'm saying that right. It was a silver one, like all silver.
It was all silver. Oh man, I don't remember what we have for metallic packs. This is the issue with working 2 years in advance, is that you almost completely forget what you worked on 2 years ago. There's always a metallic pack, so I can guarantee that. And I know we have a cool all over sparkle pack coming out, not like a cheesy sparkle, like a nice one. I can't describe it, but it's really nice. But I can't guarantee there's an all over silver in there, because I have no clue. I have no clue. And also, so I work 2 years out in advance for inline. There's another team that does extra things like that animal print pack. Like, if we realize we're missing something that's close to market, like fashion companies will a lot of times work a lot closer to the launch date, and so they can see what people are liking. If we see we're missing something, we have a separate team that also adds in stuff. So that's a lot of time.
Oh, wow.
Metallics, just anything we may have missed that we couldn't have guessed, right? Because there's going to be things like that you you didn't know was going to become a trend. So those get added in too. So yeah, so maybe I can't guarantee it, but I know there's some cool, like in that vein of all over metallic stuff that should be hitting the market soon. So
Yoka had one too.
Hi, I wanted to know, since footwear is such a specialized market, how are you sourcing talent?
how am I sourcing talent? Is that what you said?
Where are you hiring? What universities, what companies, what countries?
Yeah. So yeah, footwear is a very, very specific field, and can be a difficult one to go through. That's one of the reasons I always bring up Pencil, because they are a huge feeder program. Because Dr. Dwayne Edwards is the one who started Pencil and who is running it. He actually was just he was like a guest speaker for the International Design Conference and everything. Like, he's a big deal. Amazing guy, amazing teacher. But he like created this program, and you get to work directly with the companies. And they're a huge feeder. They're a huge feeder for Nike, Adidas, Allbirds now, New Balance, obviously. There's like 8 or 10 of us that have been hired on through that program. So like programs like that where you can get in an experience, that's the biggest one. Where else do we hire from? University-wise, I don't know that we necessarily have like too much of a prejudice, honestly. Like, it's going to be your obvious design schools. But I know there's a textile design girl here from Jefferson as well. And I know of other people who have come through here that are from our school, as well as I know someone from Jefferson that's at Timberland. And like there's people at Nike. The other schools you're typically going to see are going to be your SCAD, your for apparel you'll see like FIT. For textile design you'll see RISD a lot. And then but you'll still see people from smaller schools. I'm from the West Coast, so I'm always excited when I find someone from University of Oregon or Western Washington. Yeah, so I'd say it's pretty open. And New Balance in particular actually hires a really broad range of people, which is pretty amazing. Like, it's something I really appreciate because I feel pretty at home here, even though I feel like I'm not a typical sneakerhead, because it's definitely a field that has traditionally been a bunch of men, specifically white men. Yeah, but we have people who came from architecture, who came from graphic design. We even had someone who, my friend Natalie was an EMT, and she decided she wanted to get into design. She did a Pencil course, got retrained, and they hired her on, even though she doesn't like have a specific degree in this. So yeah, feeder program like Pencil, competitions, and then just apply. I mean, apply for the positions. A lot of them for other companies come due in November, I think, for apprenticeships and internships. And thankfully in footwear and sportswear, they are paid. I know that's not always the case with fashion. And yeah, I'm trying to think how else we do it. There's a woman named, she's on Instagram. Her handle is Sneaker Prof, I believe. Her name is Elizabeth Brock Jones, and she's a footwear developer for Nike. She runs footwear development courses online, but she also runs a program where she'll look at your resume and portfolio. So things like that can be really good too, if there's like a person that's specific to your area that reviews, because then they'll know people too. Like, she knows tons of people at Nike, so she can send you to people there. Yeah, so I don't know, we hire from all over, but I think Pencil is the biggest one, and then followed by, design competitions, and then just submitting from universities for apprenticeships.
That's good to know about Pencil, because they contacted me for students and alumni.
Oh yeah. That's
Yeah,
good.
They
I-
want to
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that they want to build a more sustainable relationship with the university. So that's good to know that you were part of the program. We can utilize you a little bit more to spread the word with our
Yeah.
alumni and students.
Yeah, of course.
But
And if
thanks,
you have
guys.
any questions, if you have any further questions for me, feel free to like ask me about it too. It's like it can be an intense program because I mean they really are. They're trying to teach you a whole job in like 3 to 6 weeks. But it's like that was by far where I learned the most about my specific career field. Yeah, the people who have come through those classes with me come from all over the place. Not all of them have degrees in the field that they have applied for, but they're all like really passionate. And that program teaches you how to be like they hold you to a really high professional standard. They will help you obviously, but like they really want you to do your best, and they will like tell you if you're not up, you're not living up to the standard you've set for yourself. And that was really important for me. Like it built my confidence, but it also like made me realize what areas I needed to build and what I needed to do for myself. And yeah, they're just amazing. And they have connections in like absolutely every company. And you can literally just ask them, especially Miss Suzette from Color Materials. You can say, hey, I want to work for Nike. I want to work for Adidas. Who do you know there that you can put me in touch with? And she'll just put you in touch. And a lot of the Pencil alums will gladly talk to you because we've been through the same program. And they'll get coffee with you and they'll put you forward for things. It's really amazing network of people. And they really build up people and a much more diverse pool, which is amazing. And I'm glad to hear they're reaching out to different universities to like build a relationship. Especially, I'd like to see so we had brand marketing track, and the people who went to it, like a lot of them had no experience in it, and they were great. But like I know some of you fashion merchandising people would absolutely blow them out of the water. So don't be afraid to apply to those kinds of things. So yeah, no, they work with everyone. They're amazing. They know everyone, and they got me my job. So yay. Thank you so much for having me.
We really appreciate your time today. I know we ran over a little bit, but this was so important, and I'm so excited about looking at New Balance for the rest of the day and research. All right, well,
Awesome.
you have a good one. We will
Yeah,
be in
you
touch.
guys too. And I'm not joking. Feel free to reach out. LinkedIn, Instagram, wherever. All right. Bye guys. Have a great rest of your day.
Well, thank you.